Good afternoon, honorable members, all colleagues on the platform, the leadership of the Department of Basic Education, as well as the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. May I just please confirm if my co-chair is in the meeting and whether we can proceed? Secretariat?
Good afternoon, Chairperson. We have our members here. I'll check with the Secretariat from Basic Education. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me give a few minutes. It's only 1 minute past 2 o'clock. So Hajira, if you could just please inform us. I'll also check on Honorable Maimela in the meantime. Thank you.
Good day, Chairperson. I've just spoken to the Secretariat. The Chairperson for Basic Education will join shortly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hajira. I would have liked to start when she's here, but I think in respecting everybody else's time, we can start and then we will welcome the chair and bring her up to speed when she arrives in the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kusela Sangonitiko. I'm the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies. I'll be co-chairing this meeting today with Honorable Joy Maimela. She is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education. In the meeting, we have members from the two committees who I will ask to introduce themselves shortly. But before we do that, I just wanted to check with the Secretariat of both portfolio committees if we have received any apologies.
Afternoon, Chairperson. We've received an apology from the Minister in the Department of Communications and Technologies. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. It's Llewellyn Brown, the Secretary for Basic Education, Chair. We've received apologies from Minister Khwarube, who has commitments abroad. She won't be able to join us this afternoon. And then one member of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Honorable Ngubeni, who might not be able to be with us this afternoon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Llewellyn, and thank you to Hajira as well.
Maybe let me just... Chairperson, if I can just come in, there's just a WhatsApp that came through, an apology for the Deputy Minister as well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, he sent me a message as well. Let me thank all the members who attended. I am aware it was a bit short notice when we had to change the scheduled a date for this meeting. We were supposed to meet tomorrow, Friday the 21st. However, due to clashing commitments that members already had, we then requested that we convene today. The purpose of the meeting is really to bring the two portfolio committees together to have a common sense and appreciation of the school connectivity program. Both the chairperson of Basic Education and myself had been asked to intervene a number of times where either we were not getting cooperation, from the side of communications and digital technologies in rolling out this program in schools. I know that there was a problem in the Eastern Cape in particular, and I think in a number of areas where the information coming to us would have been that the schools are not cooperating. On the side of basic education, a similar sense that some of the either the network providers or the entities that are rolling out this program were either not rolling out what was required, or other challenges that arise, such as issues of security. Once you've rolled out, schools saying, no, we don't want this program in our schools, it's attracting theft, it's attracting vandalism of the school and all other things of that nature. So we were of the opinion that maybe if we have a common understanding as committees, what does this program entail? How much progress has been made to date? What are the challenges on the ground? What needs to be done? Because indeed, all of us have committed ourselves to ensuring that your learners, are some of the key beneficiaries of these digital technologies and this digital empowered society that we're trying to build. Llewellyn, I'll request that you alert me when Honorable Maimela is on the platform. But let me start off just by asking the members who have joined the meeting to please introduce themselves. I will not have the list of basic education before me, so I'll go through the members of the Portfolio Committee on Communications, and then I'll request the Secretariat in the meantime to help us with the introductions of the members from basic education. Can I invite Honorable Souls?
Honorable Chair, don't tell me you want to see me.
We always want to see you. There are people watching this, Honorable Souls, so they need to be able to see your face.
On one condition, though.
Yes, sir.
I thought I'm your favorite, and then in the last meeting, you called another honorable member your favorite. So can I get confirmation, please?
Honorable Souls, my new favorite member, please, can we see your video?
There you go. Am I visible?
Yes, you are visible. Thank you very much, Honorable Souls.
The
next member is my old favorite member, Honorable Shongwe.
Sanbonani, Chair. I don't know whether I am visible. Oh, I'm visible. Sanbonani. I'm Honorable Shongwe. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Shongwe. Honorable Makubela.
Can you see me? Good afternoon, Chairperson.
Thank
Am
you.
I visible?
Yes, you are, Madam. Thank you.
Is the lipstick on? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Honorable Subrathi.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon to everybody on the call.
Thank you, Honorable Subrathi. Honorable Sitole. Honorable Sitole, are you with us? Okay, let me move. Honorable Matafa.
Good afternoon, Chair, and everybody on the platform. I am in the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Vilakazi.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jobe, Honorable Sitole, I saw your face.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and members.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ngubane.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Bodlani.
Chair, I see you saving the best for last.
We'd love to see the best, Honorable Bodlani. We can't see your video.
Sorry, Chair, I think my settings are giving me a problem. I don't know what's happening. I'm using a new gadget. but I will show my face when I do speak. I do beg your pardon.
Thank you. Honorable Maimela, I have seen that you are in the meeting as Honorable Co-Chairperson. May I hand over to you then to also introduce the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of Communications, and good afternoon to the honorable members of that portfolio committee and honorable members of the Basic Education Portfolio Committee. Let us appreciate the efforts that went into this joint sitting today. We have, as a portfolio committee, over numerous meetings, had a discussion about the integration of ICT in our schools, understanding that this is a focus area that government has over time adopted that direction. So thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to have this session so that we can broaden our understanding and enhance our understanding as a portfolio committee on the progress and on the challenges that are faced by the implementing department in this regard. Of course, I joined, I think, 3 minutes a bit late. So when I joined, Mr. Brown was concluding with sharing the apologies from members of our portfolio committee. So I'll just go through the members that are on the platform and allow them to indicate their presence in the meeting. I'll start with Honorable Shongwe.
Oh, lucky me, I am here again. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Yodan.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members.
Honorable Christians.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Honorable Gaza. Honorable Gaza.
Oh, I'm sorry. Greetings, everyone.
Okay. Honorable Low.
Madume Chair, Gidume Disele, Manuel Harona, Parliament.
Honorable Shkwambana.
Greetings, Chair, and greetings to all members of the Portfolio Committee of Basic Education, together with the communication. My name is Mandla Shikwambana from the EFF. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Have I left out any member of our Portfolio Committee? Honorable Komani.
Assalamu alaikum, Amir. My name is Ansel Chika Koman, representing Economic Freedom.
Honorable Komani, the established rule is that we ought to see your face. Can we see your face? Okay, thank you, Honorable Komana. If there is any member that I've left out, can they indicate? Okay, Honorable Co-Chair, we do also have the Department of Basic Education in the meeting. Just at glance at the register, I've seen the DM, our Deputy Minister, Honorable Honorable Mhaule. I've also seen the DG, on the platform, and other members from the department. I think they will have an opportunity to introduce themselves, and of course, our support team of the portfolio committee. So thank you very much, and back to you, Honorable Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. So maybe without wasting any time, let me ask the Secretariat to put up the agenda for the meeting. Greetings, Deputy Minister Mhaule. I'm sorry, I did not see you there. From the Department of Communications, I do know that the team is led by the Director General. As indicated, our minister had submitted an apology, and the Deputy Minister is on an oversight visit with the Post Bank. May I request that the agenda is put up on the screen, please? Co-Chair, maybe while that is happening, to indicate that with the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, there are also a number of entities that are involved in the rollout of the SA Connect program that they're going to speak to. I have seen USASA in the meeting. I'm expecting that probably CETA and Centec will be here as well, but the Deputy Minister will, the Director General will give us a sense of who's here when she makes a presentation. I have also seen the chairperson of the regulatory authority, ICASA. You are all welcome, colleagues, and as always, sincere appreciation to the committee staff who would have set this up. So there's one item on the agenda. We have until 1600 hours, 4 o'clock, for discussions on this. I saw 2 presentations. Perhaps we'll get guidance from the Deputy Minister as well as the DGs, whether they're going to be separating those presentations or whether indeed it's a joint briefing like it appears on the screen. Thereafter, we will then open for discussions with the committee. Without wasting any time, Deputy Minister, could I perhaps hand over to you to lead the presentations and perhaps just outline where you would like us to start. Deputy Minister Mhaule.
Chair, good morning to you. I'm in the car, but it's a stationed car because I'm in another meeting, but I felt that it's important that I join this meeting because we have always been looking forward to this meeting where we speak about connectivity in our schools. And want to thank you, Chairperson, that indeed it's not very easy to get 2 portfolio committees together to discuss matters of mutual interest, especially for connectivity in our schools. So we are here with the DG of the department and the head of ICT, which they have prepared a presentation to the status of the connectivity in our schools by SA Connect. And I believe that from here, we'll have a clear way forward because we don't want the children, especially from the rural areas and the semi-rural areas, to be disadvantaged in terms of connectivity. We are always criticized that it looks like we're looking at urban and formal townships and we don't care about our children from those areas. So I'm happy about this meeting today because it will map up a clear way forward on the connectivity to our schools, especially in the rural areas. With your permission, because as education, we do have a presentation, Chair, my chairpersons, both of you. I don't know, like you said, that whether it's one presentation, but it can come as one after the other, whether we need to start as basic education to make the presentation, then communications will come. The 2 DGs will guide us on that. With your permission, if my DG can come in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, and we definitely share your sentiments that no one must be left behind. DG, may I invite you, DG Education?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairs, of the two portfolio committees and honorable members. I'm trying to unmute like my deputy minister. I'm on the road, but stationary. I'm not sure whether
There's
my
no way
device...
you are stationary, DG. You are jumping all over the place, but it's fine. We can see you. You may proceed, DG. Thank you.
Yes, the car is stationary, Chair. Maybe I didn't articulate it properly. I'm in a stationary vehicle, and the presentation has been prepared. It's not a joint presentation. May I also indicate, honorable chairs, that we've had constant interactions between the DG of communications and ourselves, as well as the team. The last meeting that we had to sort out some of the glitches which might maybe surface in this meeting, and we had agreed with our teams on how some of the glitches should be sorted out. But safe to say, Chair, that my sense is that there are two separate presentations. From our side, Mr. Tlhabane will do the presentation under the leadership of the branch head, Dr. Mthembu, and I'll wait for your indication whether we should proceed or maybe I should step back and afford my colleague, the DG from communications, then to also come in. Then you'll indicate whether who should go first, whether basic education or the Department of Communication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DG. I think let's not break the momentum. So let's take the presentation from basic education. The DG communication will then come after that presentation and lead her team in their presentation as well. Thank you, DG.
Wonderful, wonderful, Chair. Mr. Tlhabane, can we proceed, please?
Thank you, DG and honorable chairs. Can I be afforded the sharing capability? I'm trying to share, it says disabled. Can the host assist me to have the sharing capacity?
You can share, sir.
And according to the rule, you must show your face first.
I hope the presentation is on the screen. Let me see if I can show my face. Okay, I'm able to share the presentation, but my face is not there, DM. Should I take it down and show my face first?
Continue.
Yeah, I think you can proceed, Mr. Tlhabane. You dodged a bullet, but you can proceed.
Thank you very much, DM, and thank you, co-chairpersons. There's a presentation to the joint portfolio committees on school connectivity, and that is the presentation outline. It's going to point us to the goals of the NDP regarding schools connectivity, the white paper 7 on e-education, and then outline the policy SA Connect, various phases thereof, and the work done by provinces as well to provide connectivity within provinces. That is a purpose. And the NDP says we need to ensure that all schools have access to reliable broadband internet, enabling students to utilize digital learning tools and resources, ultimately aiming to bridge the digital divide and provide equitable access to quality education for all South Africans. And the white paper 7 on e-education says ICT should facilitate new learning opportunities and access to educational resources well beyond those traditionally available. Co-chairpersons and honorable members, the SA Connect policy was developed by the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies.
Sorry, Mr.
And was
Tlhabane.
approved by Cabinet.
Mr. Tlhabane, I'm so sorry to interject. Your slides don't seem to be moving on the screen. Can you put it on presentation mode so that the slides could move?
Is it still on the cover slide, Chair?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, let me. Is it moving?
It's off now totally.
Okay. Let me reload it. It's back on my screen. Can you see it, Chair?
We can see it, Mr. Tlhabane, but I don't know if
I'm
you...
trying to move it. Is it moving?
It's not moving. I think you need to go to slideshow at the top.
Maybe I could request Mr. Mahada to share for me. I'm going to leave.
Okay,
I'll
that's
stop sharing.
fine, Mr. Okay. No, I was going to say, even if it's not on presentation mode, we could see you when you move to the next one.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now?
Nothing now.
Chairperson, it's Llewellyn. If I may, if I could assist and maybe share it from my side, Mr. Tlhabane can just indicate when I need to move the slides. Oh, I see it's back on.
Okay. Should I keep it like this, Chair?
Yes, we can see it and it's moving. That's fine. Thank you. Thanks, Llewellyn.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had already passed here outlining what the NDP says and what the white paper 7 on e-education says. And I was on this slide where I was talking about the SA Connect policy, which the Cabinet approved in 2023, developed by the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies, and that this policy, which is a national broadband policy, is aimed at providing citizens and schools with broadband connectivity. The targets for schools based on this policy are as follows. The policy envisaged that by 2016, 50% of schools would have connectivity at 10 megabits per second, and by 2020, 100% of schools would be at 10 megabits per second, and that 80% of the schools would have been up to 100 megabits per second. That is 4 or 5 years ago. And the goal is that by 2030, 100% of schools should be connected at 1 gigabytes per second. The implementation has broken down into 2 phases, and phase 1 of this policy provided 599 public schools with connectivity. And this was broadband connectivity suitable for both school administration and teaching and learning. These 599 schools were expected to pay an amount of 16,000 rands per month to access connectivity and other online services. And the table here shows the amount of money that had to be paid per month by the Department of Basic Education in those provinces, which is 9.5 million rand per month, 16,000 rands per school. phase one was based on this number of schools. It is evident that the education sector was supposed to pay this amount, as I indicated. However, provinces indicated that they did not have the budget to pay these amounts of monies that were required to keep schools connected. The matter was raised with DCDT, but the matter has since not been resolved. As part of the collaboration between DBE, DCDT, and OpenServe, which is Telkom, a total of 1,200 schools were earmarked to be provided with broadband connectivity suitable for both school administration and teaching and learning. These schools were selected because they are within the OpenServe footprint. The selected schools received free internet service for a period of 5 years, which is still running. The free internet service to the schools includes broadband connectivity of 500 megabits per second, which is far above what SA Connect is offering of 10 megabits per second. This internet is uncapped and it's subject to fair usage policy. It has Wi-Fi enabled ONT device, no router required for schools to connect to the internet. And the table below indicates the number of schools that receive broadband connectivity for teaching and learning. Through the USAO, the Universal Service Access Obligations, which are obligations that are imposed on mobile network operators by ICASA, 5,250 public schools were allocated to mobile network operators in 2014 to be provided with connectivity as well as ICT resources. We established a task team between the two departments to ensure that this rollout happens according to the specifications which were developed. The specifications were developed by the two departments and were submitted to ICASA. And furthermore, the schools were segmented into two categories: 4,690 public ordinary schools, as well as 560 special schools. The public ordinary schools received the solution that comprised of 24 tablets, charging trolley, content server, 3 gigabytes of connectivity, and a once-off data of 2 gigabytes. The progress with regard to special schools was that 348 schools were provided with connectivity as well as assistive devices and ICT equipment. And this 348 constitutes 78% of all the public schools in the country, which are 447, meaning there were public special schools that were not connected and are still not connected, as we are reporting to the Honorable Joint Sitting Committee. It should be noted that Vodacom completed their allocated schools according to the obligations for these special schools. MTN is finalizing their rollout. They did not complete, but they are finalizing their rollout, and by the end of March of this year, they would have completed. They submitted their revised implementation plan to the Director General of Basic Education. But it should be noted that they did not deliver on time. Liquid Intelligent Technologies indicated that they will finalize their rollout in the next financial year. They have not met the deadline they were given by ICASA. Cell C is lagging behind, and they have only provided the solution to 26 public special schools since 2019. This matter was raised by the Director General of Basic Education through a letter to ICASA and DCDT, and we have not yet received any response. and it does not look like there's anything that is happening to impose penalties on Cell C for failing to meet what are regarded as obligations. The table below indicates the number of schools, 5,179, that benefited from the social obligations which we reported on, and that by January of 2024, 5,179 schools had received. And this includes both ordinary schools, public ordinary schools, as well as special schools as reflected in the table. The next table indicates the cumulative number of schools provided with connectivity since 2019 based on the DBE-driven project, the social obligations, and SA Connect. Honorable members, the numbers that are reflected here shows that 81% of all schools in the country have received some kind of connectivity as per the obligations. However, it should be noted that this 81% connectivity only speaks to school administration. It does not talk to connectivity used for teaching and learning. We have provinces that have their own provincial broadband connectivity rollouts, like Gauteng, which through the Office of the Premier are connecting all government institutions, providing them with high-speed connectivity, which is of a broadband standard. Other provinces include the Western Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Free State. And this connectivity also reaches schools as indicated in the table there, showing how many schools were connected through provincial initiatives in 2022 and those that were connected through provincial initiatives by 2023. Honorable members will note that the table shows a column for learners and a column for teachers. This is connectivity that is used for teaching and learning, not only school administration. And the numbers that we see there shows the SIM cards. Most of them are SIM cards that are given to learners and SIM cards that are given to teachers for them to be able to access high-speed connectivity. In 2022, the Cabinet approved the implementation of Phase 2 of the SA Connect policy. And this happened on the 28th of January of 2022, when the high demand spectrum was auctioned by ICASA, and the mobile network operators submitted their bids, and those that were successful were then allocated the spectrum. The basic education sector was not consulted about the implementation of this project when it was presented to Cabinet, but we were informed, however, about the decision of Cabinet on this matter. The ITA indicated that schools were going to be provided with 10 megabytes per second. This is not in line with the envisaged targets that were spelled out in the SA Connect policy, as I have already explained earlier, where we said 100% of schools will be at 10 megabits per second by 2020, and 80% of schools would be at 100 megabits per second. There is no mention of 100 megabytes per second, but we're only referring to 10 megabits per second. According to the target set out in the SA policy, as I indicated, we were supposed to be at 100 megabits per second by 2020. Noting these issues, the DBE raised concerns with the implementation plan that was presented to itself. And through the intervention of the two Director Generals, the two departments met on the 18th of November of last year to discuss the challenges that both teams from DBE and DCDT reported to them on the proposed solution. And I think the Honorable Chairperson, in her opening remarks, correctly indicated that there were then delays in terms of implementation because of these bottlenecks and the holdbacks, which the Director Generals intervened and provided direction on. The two DGs noted that the ICASA did not take into consideration the specifications that DB submitted to the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, but that the department and ICASA were of the view that they needed to continue without considering the recommendations and the inputs that came from basic education. Based on the approved solution, ICASA and the mobile network operators, the DGs noted that each school would be provided with a router, a SIM card, and 500 gigs of data for a period of 12 years. Through the two Director Generals, the following was resolved: that the speed that will be provided to the 16,139 public schools is not in accordance with the SA Connect policy of 100 megabits per second. Two, that the connectivity will be used only for administration, and that learners and teachers would not be able to use this connectivity to deliver teaching and learning in the 21st century. The officials from the two departments were directed by the two Director Generals to arrange a meeting to discuss how the 16,139 schools would be provided with the end user devices, which are not part of the solution. Furthermore, the officials were directed by the Director Generals to develop a plan on how to provide the 594 schools that were supposed to be connected in phase one with end user devices. The table below indicates the cumulative number of schools provided. I think I've already spoken to this, which is actually the last slide, that we are standing at 81% of schools, but we are looking forward to the connectivity of the 16,900 schools that will not be receiving connectivity that will transform how teaching and learning should happen, but will only be used by the principal as well as the admin clerk to log into the SA SEMS for administration of schools. I wish to thank you, Deputy Minister and the Director General, for the opportunity, and the honorable co-chairpersons and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I hand back to you, I think to you, DG. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Tlhabane. I'm not seeing the DG coming on. I think let me call the next presentation from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. After that presentation, I will hand over to my co-chair, the Honorable Maimela, to chair the deliberations. Deputy Director General Nonqubela Jordan Gyani, if you could please lead the presentation from Communications. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am. Is the DG still with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to the chairpersons, of the both communications as well as education. Honorable members, Deputy Minister, colleagues on the platform. Let me also recognize, Chair, that the DCDT delegation, we have also the chairperson of ICASA, and I think some also members from the regulator. We also have the DCDT entities on the platform. Safe to say, Chair, that our presentation obviously aligns with, by and large, by what our colleagues from DBE have presented as one government. And additional to that, though, just want to underscore as I invite the DDG Gobeni and Miriam to take us through the presentation. You will find a lot of duplication in terms of obviously what we are presenting vis-a-vis theirs. We will try to be succinct and not to underscore the issues that they have put forward. We noted, Chair, that when then there are obligations, these obligations are not honored fully as it has been presented now. And as such, in the last round of then the social obligations and the license conditions from the ITA, we have now imposed penalties. We are working with the regulator to enforce those penalties, but you can most certainly know that there is obviously a bigger pockets from on the side of those whom we have to regulate. And sometimes it is very difficult for our regulators to take this through. So they are relying on all of us, Chair, collectively to ensure the enforcement of these. Equally, Chair, I also want to underscore that we don't want this to be punitive, because I think the objective is that we want to achieve the NDP goals of making sure that we achieve 100% connectivity by 2030. And we've identified under the social obligations, frontline government services as core for them to be connected. I would like to invite the DDG and Miriam to take us through the presentation. It's the Deputy Director General responsible for ICT infrastructure development, as well as Ms. Miriam Paul, who's the Chief Director overseeing the school's connectivity program. Thank you.
Good afternoon, coaches, honorable members, DGs and colleagues. As DG indicated that because the presentation do overlap as we're reporting on similar programs, we'll just focus on the point of emphasis on the different aspects. In terms of the outline of the presentation, we will provide an update around the IMT spectrum license obligations of 2024. We also provide an update on the universal service obligations of 2014. And then the SA Connect Phase 1 and the USAF connectivity, and then the OpenServe fiber program, and also talk about the provincial broadband programs. Next slide. With regard to the IMT spectrum license obligations 2024, ICASA published an invitation to apply, which then stipulated the obligations that the licensees who will become successful will need to implement. And it covers various government facilities. In the main, the bulk of the facilities were schools, which is the 18,520, and that will be the focus of this presentation. But there was also connectivity to other public service institutions, including the health facilities and hospitals, and also police stations, which are later replaced by libraries because the SAPS has got its own program, and also focusing on the traditional authority offices. There was also, in addition to that, an obligation to zero rate certain content, and ICASA has gone ahead to publish a government gazette in terms of the processes to access this content and have this content available on a zero-rated basis. Next slide. This just shows the allocation of the schools to the different licensees who were successful in obtaining spectrum. We then also break it down in terms of the allocation for the schools for the different entities. You'll have seen that in terms of the initial allocation of schools, the number was quite high, it was 18,520. However, they were in the end, there were some schools that were excluded either because there was missing information. ICASA was not able to map that those schools, and also as indicated by Mr. Tlhabane earlier, that some of the provincial governments do have their programs and they are connecting schools. So those will have been excluded, and those other provinces as well. We have task SITA to provide connectivity to schools. We're also excluded from this. This was to eliminate duplication. And next slide. And then this is just a breakdown of those schools per province. I think we can move to the next slide. And here we're just trying to highlight some of the conditions for these obligations. That the licenses will provide 500 gigabyte monthly at the minimum speed of the 10 megabit per second. And that'll be for a period of 12 years. Maybe just also pause here just to indicate that I know we'll come to it later, but it's an opportune time to deal with this matter. Both the DCDT and the basic education engaged prior to the finalization of the obligations and will have provided input to ICASA in terms of the obligations. However, ICASA then took that input and other input they will have considered and engaged with the licensees in terms of finalizing the obligations and negotiated the final outcomes, as the licensing process is a regulated process which is dealt by the regulator. And then also the issue was that the provision of connectivity should be at zero cost to the public service institutions. And with regard to infrastructure, is that the licensees will be responsible for the infrastructure cost, and the public service institution will be responsible for equipment cost, including the customer premises equipment. Yeah, I think we'll talk to it later as well in terms of some of the considerations. And with regard to the issues of maintenance and security, that's still a responsibility of the licensees and also including maintenance. And then the public service institution will be responsible for the local security within their schools, in this case, and ensuring that they do provide secure environment for the equipment that will have been provided to provide the connectivity. And they're also responsible for electricity and also access to the PSIs. And then this just in terms of the targets that have been set by ICASA for the licenses to conclude the implementation of the program. ICASA imposed that the obligations must be implemented within a 5-year period, with the 50% of the connectivity be done in the first year, which will have been the end of March this year. And then subsequently the other targets, 65%, 80 up to 100% by 2029. And also a limitation in terms that the licenses cannot swap the sites once they are allocated by ICASA. There will have to be a regulatory process to make any changes. Next slide. There's also a framework for monitoring the implementation within the 5-year period, with the expectation that the licenses will provide biannual reports to ICASA on the performance against the license obligations. I think we can move to the next slide. And with regard to the obligation to zero rate, the content, this is applicable to public benefit organizations and also sites with the .gov.za website. There's also a limitation on the data that can be used by an individual. And this also emanates from the experience that happened during the COVID obligations, where some of the zero-rated content was abused, and then there will be increased traffic that will also degenerate the quality of the networks. So there was a mechanism to try and prevent that, because then it affects everyone, not only those who are accessing the service through zero-rated content. And ICASA has published that a framework for zero rating the content. Next slide. So in terms of the progress, there have been engagement between the DCDT, DBE, and ICASA, which commenced as early as December 2022. You'll know that was before the finalization of the obligations, and there was that submission of the input. And DBE stated the requirements with regard to the speeds that are expected and the free data. And the final outcome in terms of the negotiated agreement between ICASA and the licenses, it was 10 megabit per second and then 500 gigabit free data, and also one customer premises equipment that was reached. And our understanding is that from ICASA is that there is a financial implication on the obligations, which the licenses factors in as they bid for the spectrum licenses. So as more requirements are included, it is either a need to reduce the number of facilities to be covered to meet the expected performance as indicated, or else we focus on connecting all the schools, and then with subsequent process focusing on increasing the speeds and the other elements such as devices. So there have been those engagements, and because of this differences in the outcome of the negotiated obligations with the licenses, when DBE was unhappy with that process, and the DCDT engaged with both ICASA and DBE, and those engagements, of course, were protracted, and then as indicated by Mr. Tlhabane, that they were finally concluded in December 2024, where DBE agreed that the process can move with the understanding that the connectivity that's being provided does not address the teaching and learning, as it's mainly will support the administrative aspect. And as a result, since January this year, the planning and the implementation of the program commenced, with the operators now able to engage with the provincial basic education departments to finalize their plans so that the implementation can commence. Next slide. And I think these are some of the challenges that we encountered because of the delays in terms of agreeing on the specification. It is and delaying the planning and the implementation of the program. It is meant that the 50% target for the first year will not be achieved. And as a result, the licenses have approached ICASA to request to review the target so that they can be able to recover in the next financial year. There was also an issue of some of the information which will be incorrect or missing, which also delayed the planning, but that's being attended to through the support of the National Basic Education colleagues to ensure that data is validated and then licenses are able to locate the schools. And we're also then engaging with the provinces and the district coordinators to support the licenses who have started implementation. And also there were also challenges on the data that has been used to allocate the schools to the licenses. But however, that's ICASA is attending to it to address those challenges on the data, because they will have been duplicating some instances of the schools allocated to the licenses. The next slide. With regards to the 2014 obligations, as already indicated in terms of the allocation, what Mr. Tlavani indicated, which just indicate here that both Vodacom did achieve the target and actually exceeded the target that was allocated for the mainstream schools and also met for the special institutions. Similarly, with MTN exceeded the target and also met the institutions of special education. With regard to Cell C and Liquid, the target for the special schools was reduced because there were no additional schools that could be provided. However, as indicated, there has been delays in terms of concluding the implementation. Although Liquid will have completed and both Cell C completed their mainstream schools, there has been a delay in achieving the special schools. And as a result, there has been that a shortfall in terms with the special schools. And MTN, of course, went further because there were some schools requested that instead of just providing the just connectivity, they will also then go further and renovate the IT rooms where the connectivity will be provided for the special schools. And yeah, can move to the next slide. The other sub-program for which support the school connectivity is the phase 1 of the SA Connect. And I think at this stage we'll also then talk to the issues raised around the speeds which were outlined in the SA Connect policy. So this will have been the number of schools that will have been provided with connectivity as part of the phase 1. Initially, when the phase 1 was conceptualized, it had, because it was supposed to be a pilot before we implemented the bigger rollout of phase 2. The facilities that were included was about 6,500 to be connected as part of phase 1. However, due to funding constraints that resulted around that time, someone recalled it was around the issues of the fees must fall. Some of the funding was redirected to support those pressing financial needs. And this phase 1 program, if you move to the next slide, the funding for this program was reduced, and hence we're only able to do the 597 schools in the end. And the intention had been that in line with the SA Connect policies was to achieve 10 megabit per second connectivity to all the schools by 2016, and also upgrade that to 100 megabit per second. And in order to do that, there was a feasibility study that was undertaken by the DCDT in 2018 and concluded in 2020, which did a detailed analysis of the requirements and also the financial implications of upgrading from 10 megabit per second firstly of connecting all the schools at 10 megabit per second and upgrading to 100 megabit per second. And this model for phase 1 and phase 2 was based on government being an anchor tenant. That meant government will be responsible for paying for connectivity, which is the case with the phase 1 facilities. However, after the feasibility study was concluded, it was not approved because of the funding that was required to implement the entirety of phase 2. And it was at that stage that then a different model was then proposed to cabinet, and in order to fit within the funding that was being made available. And with that, the decision was that the limited funding will assist in expanding the infrastructure for phase 1, whilst then the connectivity to school will be done through the social obligations which we spoke about earlier. Hence, all the schools then will be connected through that program. And at this stage, that's the main program it's meant to connect schools. And with regard to phase 1, because now the funding to continue paying for the connectivity was also reduced and integrated into the phase 2, there was that engagement which Mr. Tlavel indicated in terms of saying that since we're going forward, the department, the DCDT will not have the adequate funding to fund for connectivity. There should be consideration whether the provinces will be able to take care of the connectivity. And when the provinces were not indicated that they are unable to pay for that, funds, at least for the current financial year, were reprioritized from the phase 2 to continue paying for the connectivity on this phase 1 facilities. So as the funding for phase 1 also get reduced, it does affect the continued payment of connectivity for these phase 1 facilities. And in addition to this program of the phase 1, SA Connect phase 1, we also, through the Universal Service Access Fund led by USASA, provide connectivity to schools in remote areas to say as closing a gap whilst we're awaiting the implementation of the social obligations. To say that because it's going to take 5 years, some of the facilities will not be able to be connected, and also understanding the urgent need to provide connectivity. Through the universal service obligations, there is intervention to provide connectivity to the schools. And you'll see the connectivity in the OR Tambo district and also Pixley, Kaseme. And there's also plans to move to other district municipalities in the following year. Can move to the next slide. So, and then some of the challenges that we experience as part of these sub-programs, the phase 1, and also for the USASA. It's in some instances we'll have that because we're using the state-owned entities, BBI and CETA, to provide the connectivity for phase 1. But then they will also partner with SMMEs in support of local SMME support. In some instances, you will find that the access network providers are not able to provide or meet the service level agreement that's there. Because currently, the expectation is that the connectivity to a facility should be available 95% of the time, which means it can only be off within a month. We are expecting about 36 hours or a day and a half that it can be off. Because cumulatively, that if when you add that time that it's unavailable, it should not be more than 36 hours. So we'll find that some of the providers do not meet that, and as a result, then there will be a process to replace them. And we also experience the issue of vandalism of equipment, where the entities will also replace, and then some of the facilities will be affected more than once and becomes costly continue with such a provision of service there. The issue of power supply, it's often create a problem. But what we also noted is that in some instances, of course, the schools are also looking at saving the cost in terms of electricity. And after school or even during school holidays, they will want to switch off power, and that power will affect the connectivity. And in some cases, you'll find that that connectivity is also essential to provide connectivity to other facilities in the vicinity. And also, whenever there were renovations, sometimes it will take long that you will have a service that's off for quite some time while they're renovating. So these are some of the challenges that we encounter as we continue to maintain the connectivity in these facilities. Next slide. It's also then the OpenServe program, as indicated by Mr. Tlhabane, that OpenServe approached the DCDT, indicating that they have deployed extensive network, and in instances where there are schools closer to their network, they are willing to provide that connectivity for free over a 5-year period. That program has commenced, and as of February, there's about 371 schools that have benefited from this program, and they're continuing to implement this program. Next slide. And with also the provincial broadband programs, there are schools, particularly the Eastern Cape and Western Cape broadband, and also Gauteng as well, who have their own programs at the provincial government level, where they've reprioritized the funds within their allocation to provide connectivity. And this enables them to able to provide high-speed connectivity. However, even if one looks at how they've evolved, they will have also started with providing connectivity at 10 megabit per second across all the facilities, because with that, it enables the upgrade later to be less costly, because the investment will have been made already for the infrastructure so that it is able to scale for future requirements. So that's where we continue to encourage provincial government to also use some of the funding to enhance the connectivity that's provided, and it's because of the limited funding that's available in the fiscus for us to provide the connectivity that has those speeds. Next slide. Thank you very much. That's the end of the presentation. Back to you, Dee.
Thank you very much, DDG. Those are then the presentation from our side, and we stand ready to respond to questions.
Thank you. Thank you, DG. I'm handing over to Honorable Maimela, co-chair.
Okay, thank you very much to the both departments for the presentations. I hope that members would have received the presentations ahead of the meeting today, and that we've had an opportunity to really go through the presentations and with the additional information that has been shared during the presentations. It's safe to say to the two departments that it is very clear that this meeting is long overdue, that there are serious challenges, and we do need to have more of this platform so that we are able to assist each other to really achieve the goals of the White Paper 7. I am going to allow members, and I'm going to note hands of members that want to engage with the two presentations. On the platform, I'm seeing the hand of Honorable Jordan, Honorable Shkwam Low, and Honorable Christians. Those are the only hands that I am seeing on the platform. But of course, we will note additional hands Also, then the hand of Honorable Vilagazi, Honorable Matafa, Honorable Shomwe, and Honorable Sitole, and lastly will be Honorable Koman. So let's start with Honorable Jordan.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My questions are mostly to the Department of Education based on their presentation. And then I have just a clarity question to the communications. Chair, there was mention of a plan required to provide the 594 schools that were supposed to be connected as part of phase 1 with connectivity and end user devices. I'm wondering, is there a time frame for that, and who is responsible for devising that plan so that we can ensure these 594 schools are not neglected more than what they already are? Then I'm wondering, Chairperson, what training programs are in place to equip school staff and teachers with the necessary ICT skills, seeing as they are now connected, and in some cases, I've heard even that there's been some renovation to their ICT centers, etc., which is really good news. You might recall during our oversight visit, we went to a school in the Northern Cape where the school did have tablets and they did have devices, but it appeared that they were not necessarily equipped to actually use these. And then this ended up just being more of a burden to them than an educational tool. And I think we should, so far as what we can, avoid that kind of a situation. Thirdly, Chairperson, how is the department planning to improve on providing connectivity for teaching and learning, and not only for school administration? Is there any sort of progress and sustainability measurement mechanisms from an educational but also from an IT perspective where schools have already been connected? In other words, are we ensuring that where it indicates 100% has been completed, that quality assurance is done, that schools are benefiting from an educational perspective from connectivity, that, I don't know, perhaps we can look at are the grades of learners improving, or how is that being currently measured? And that the schools are making use of it optimally. Then, Chair, as a point of interest, are the departments practicing cooperative governance by collaborating with local municipalities or provincial legislatures or district municipalities to further enhance connectivity through educational centers and places of learning like libraries, for example? And then with regards to the second presentation, Chairperson, there was a table indicating the schools or the licensees of schools per province. And in some instances, there were zeros on that table, while the former presentation had indicated that there is in fact connectivity, and in certain provinces this is at an advanced sort of stage. I'm just wondering what the gap is. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding that table, but if we could just have an explanation of the zeros when it refers to licensees or schools per province in that presentation. And those are all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jordan. Honorable Shkwambana.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to everyone who's there. I will want to take this opportunity and also ask some few questions. But before I can start, I will want to direct my questions to the department. I'm very much disappointed because I was expecting the minister to be part of our meeting, but however, she's not part of our meeting. And I'm very much disappointed about that. You will recall, Chair, that I always reiterate the fact that as the EFF, we will always ask one question until that question is answered. But before I can go to that one question of mine, there is a disease that it has actually attacked the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which is known as the hand, foot, and mouth disease in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. I want to know from the Department of Basic Education that to what extent is this disease affecting teaching and learning in KZN? And does the department have turnaround strategy to recover the time wasted in that regard? How many schools affected with this disease, and how many learners do we have that are actually infected with this disease that we are having there in KZN? And do we have any death recorded due to this disease which is happening there in KZN? The other issue that I want to ask is that do we have measures in place to arrest the spread of this disease in our schools? Because I understand that schools are highly affected in KZN. Now I will want to go to my one and only and the most questions that before I can even start my meetings every time or my questioning every time I ask. I want to know from the minister, when is the minister going to implement the Bella Act in its fullest? Can the minister take the committee into confidence as to whether she have already have the guidelines with her as expected? And if she does not have those guidelines, why? And when is she going to have them? If yes, she does have the guidelines, did she consult with the other stakeholders? And who are the stakeholders that she have consulted with? Who drafted the guidelines? Are the guidelines a platform to change the nature of the act as signed by the president? Why would the minister take a copy of AfriForum and Solidarity Memorandum and use it as a final draft of the guidelines? By law, is the minister in office supposed to be the one drafting the guidelines, or it is the department that should do it and hand it over to the minister for consideration? Coming to the questions of the day, which I think there are only two from my side. I want to know how many schools in total across the country are having connectivity, not only on the administrative part of it, but also on the teaching and learning. Because when I was listening to the presenters, one of the presenters alluded that the connectivity which they are having is mainly on the administrative part of the school, but it's not on the teaching and learning. What are the root cause of not having this connectivity on the teaching and learning? We are giving these learners gadgets in schools, and then what are they use? What is the main use of these kids to have this gadget? What are they using if they can't have connectivity in terms of them to be able to be assisted with teaching and learning in that regard? How is the electricity card? Because it's a fact, Chair, that we've got electricity cards in South Africa in a form of load reduction, and it's happening in most of our villages. How is the electricity card in a form of this load shedding affecting the connectivity in schools, and what are the mitigation plans that the department and the Department of Communication is having? Because it's a fact that we do have this electricity card. And one other thing, Chair, our communities have got a serious problems of connectivity. I mean, we can speak no matter how we want to speak. We can come here, have meetings, and praise ourselves as to say we are targeting 15,000 schools, 16,000 schools across the province or across the country in terms of the connectivity. But the reality of the matter is that there is a serious problem of connectivities in our community. Some of the communities do not even have a proper network. You can go to Limpopo in Tawazimbi, Waterberg. There's a place there where totally there's no connectivity. Once you enter into that place, you are not going to have any network. So I want to understand from the Department of Communication and Basic Education, what are the interventions are making to make sure that also even those learners and kids who are studying there in those schools that where totally there's no connectivity. How are they reaching them? Have you tried to make some plans that there's enough and proper connectivity in villages where totally there's no connectivity at all? You go there, whether you're using your MTN, whether you're using Cell C, Vodacom, or whatever network that you can mention, there's no connectivity in those places, particularly places where, or schools where they are actually situated in farms, or they are farm schools. We've got serious problems of connectivity, and I've never had anything addressing from 2 presentations addressing schools that are coming from the farms where seriously there's no connectivity. Do we give them gadgets? And yes, if we do give them gadgets, do we give them laptops for administrative purposes? Do we give them the routers and all those? But in terms of connectivity itself, it's a serious problem. What are these 2 departments doing to make sure that they address the issue of lack of connectivity in total in those communities? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shkwambana. Honorable Law.
No, thank you, Chair. Let me welcome the presentation of the department. I think it is crucial to also commend the Department of Basic Education for its commitment to a phased approach in the rollout of digital learning and teaching and support materials. And I think this is aiming to improve our educational outcomes by ensuring that resources are equitably distributed, Chair. I also want to recommend that the DCDT is playing an important role in overseeing the overall ICT landscape in South Africa. And it includes also implementing the national broadband and the policies. And then I don't want to dwell much onto that. And I think understanding that the current access to functional and reliable internet connectivity in school is vital for assessing the effectiveness of ongoing initiatives. It is critical to identify the percentage of school lacking ICT infrastructure and develop a concrete plan to bridge this gap and ensuring that no learner is left behind. So my question will be, because already how many schools have been asked, my question will be, what percentage of schools still lack ICT infrastructure, and what specific steps are being taken to bridge this gap to be done? You see, we should also, Chair, look on to equity in terms of connectivity into our different schools. And the disparities in our ICT connectivity between urban and rural schools raises significant concerns about equity in educational opportunities. And addressing this gap should be a priority from both the department, where targeted actions aimed at improving this access in underdeserving areas should be a priority for all of the departments. So I want to pose my question to say, how does ICT connectivity differ between urban and rural schools? And what initiatives are in place to ensure equitable access from both the department, or especially more the basic education department? And then what measures are implemented to ensure consistent maintenance and upgrades of ICT infrastructure at marginalized rural undeserved areas where they sometimes do not have connectivities? How often do they get maintenance, and what is the plan? Is also to look onto upgrading those particular facilities, because they are the most disadvantaged. More so your schools of quintile 1s and 2 and 3s. Those are the schools that get most affected with regard to that. And then transparency in budget allocation is essential, Chair, for accountability, effective resource utilization. We always emphasize that as the government of the people. We always speak about it, and we always make sure that people should understand that how funds are distributed among hardware, software, and internet services, it can provide an insight into strategic focus and priorities of the Department of Basic Education. So my question is that, what is the total budget allocated for ICT connectivity in schools, and how has it been utilized? And are there any public-private partnerships supporting ICT infrastructure in schools, and how are the funds being allocated between the hardware, software, and internet services, Chair? And then the last one on the Department of Education, Chair, I'd want to ask them on the availability of e-learning platforms and digital resources is crucial for enhancing teaching and learning experiences. It also makes us to ensure that the resources of their curriculum aligned and are accessible to all learners, including those with disabilities. It is vital for inclusivity also, Chair. So I've got two questions. I would want to ask, what e-learning platforms and digital resources are currently available for schools? How does the department ensure that digital content is curriculumly aligned and accessible in multiple languages? What provisions are in place for learners with disabilities to access ICT-based education? And then I'd want to go to the Department of DCDT. And I think I should start by saying that, Chair, the involvement of telecommunication companies and internet services plays a significant, a crucial role in infrastructure development and support. How are the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Communications working together to ensure the success of ICTs? What is the plan? So far, so good. They integrated their plan, and what are the challenges they are faced with? And then what role do telecommunication companies and internet services providers play in this rollout plan that they are going to tell us? Are there any cross-departmental challenges that could be hindering the progress? We would want to know so that we know how far are you. Establishing robust monitoring and evaluation system is vital for assessing and the impact of ICT connectivity in schools. And then it is also important, Chair, for clear performance indicators that will help measure the effectiveness of the ICT integration and inform future initiatives so that we are able to know and we're able to measure the work through the SMART principle so that we can have tangible, realistic, and measurable work so that we're able to say that this is how far we. So how is the effectiveness of ICT connectivities being monitored in schools? What are the key performance indicators for measuring ICT integration in education? Are there pilot programs or case studies demonstrating impact of ICT on learning outcomes? And then the last one, Chair, it is also on the policy issues. We should identify and address any policy gaps that may hinder the rollout of the ICT infrastructure. It is crucial for effectiveness of the implementation, and it's crucial for expansion for many other schools. And I will emphasize that we make sure that quintal 1 and quintal 1 to 3 schools gets prioritized, and we ought to look onto that. Are there any current policy gaps that the DCTCT is working to address regarding ICT infrastructure in schools? What steps are being taken to ensure the policy support the sustainable development ICT in education? We're having to say that, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Law. Honorable Christians.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I have a few concerns for both the DBE and DCDT. The first one is with regard to budget constraints, Chair, and provinces have indicated that they do not have the budget necessary to pay for connectivity. And this has resulted in certain schools not being connected, despite having access to the actual connectivity infrastructure. And I would like to know whether DBE and DCDT have any plans in place to actually ensure that there is the required budget to pay for connectivity. And then, Chair, there was also a mention made about the connectivity speed, that the current speed provided was 10 megabytes per second, and that this was not ideal for teaching and learning as per the SA Connect policy. We know that the SA Connect policy targets 100 megabytes per second from 2020 and 1 gigabyte per second by 2030. And then I would like to obviously know by the Department of Communication what plans are in place then to see to it that this connectivity speed is brought up to par by 2030. And then there were also a number of unresolved issues with the Department of Communications, and they were budgetary constraints and end user device constraints. And these were not resolved yet. And my question to the Department of Communication is, when will these issues be resolved, these budget constraints for the end user devices. And that also falls in place with the special schools connectivity, where it was mentioned that only 26 schools out of the 447 special schools were connected since 2019. So what plans are in place then to see to it that special schools have the necessary connectivity? As I think obviously this is very important to see to it that our special schools are also connected and have the necessary end user devices with the connectivity. And Chair, another issue or concern is also with regard to the 594 schools. And I would like to know by the Department of Education and by the Department of Communication whether they have indeed a plan, or have they developed a plan to see to it that phase 1 of connectivity and end user devices will actually be implemented, as it seems they are lagging far behind. And then lastly, Chair, I noticed that the sustainability of the free internet devices seems to be a problem, or will be a problem in the long term, because it seems that some schools will only be provided with internet services for the next 5 years, or for a period of 5 years. And this, of course, raises concerns about sustainability and future costs. My question is, what will happen after this free internet service will then come to an end? Is there a plan in place? And if so, what is that particular plan in place to see to it that it is sustainable in the future? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Christians. Honorable Vilagazi.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. I am going to echo sentiments that have been expressed by my colleagues who have preceded me. It's just disappointing to listen to these presentations, because it looks like we're just going around a hamster wheel, and we're not really getting much done. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money and a lot of time that is just that's just going down the drain. I don't see much evidence of coordination between the two departments in this project. And I'm just reflecting, I'm on the committee on communications and digital technologies. And our department's vision is to be a leader in enabling a connected and digitally transformed South Africa. That's what we're saying on the presentation. This does not look like that. This is not how leadership looks like. And instead of transformation, actually, we just see more abuse of funds and resources, and we're sinking greater into debt. It's partially the reason why we are in the situation we're in, even with the budget, because the national budget, because the implications of this literally reach that far. Where do I start? I just feel like there's so much wastage. It doesn't look to me like there's anybody that cares that this project, which has dragged for a very long time, that it actually is driven to some form of acceptable conclusion. There's unmet deadlines. There are too many projects that seem to be replicating the same thing, and but they're not talking to each other. There's poor monitoring. And what's frustrating also, none of the problems that are listed here, none of the challenges that are listed are unforeseeable. There isn't a single one that I've seen. I mean, how do you commit the education departments to a bill of 9.5 million rand a month without checking with them? How do you start a project without an audit of available devices? Who led this project? How do you start a project in a vacuum without having done the groundwork? We initially included the police. As we are starting to work, the police already have their own project going. Why? How can you involve the police in a project that they don't need? And why are all the service providers behind schedule? Why? The DG says we are going to put in place punitive measures. We are going to. That means we don't have them even now. And why have they been allowed? Also, because this has been obvious from day one, really, that they are not delivering. So what I'd like to know, Chair, is also just, it's not clear to me what the point of the project is. So, but from the DBE, what does connectivity look like to you? Can we find out from the DBE? What is connectivity? Because we have brought internet to some schools, but no, they're not for teaching and learning, they're for administration. Honorable Jordan asks about capacitation of educators. But why are we capacitating them if they are not going to be using the same? The DBE presentation actually also spoke about internet provision that was insufficient for purposes of education. So what is it? What's the end game for the Department of Education? Secondly, can we please get from DBE or possibly DCDT, how many schools, and I remember this question was asked maybe in a different way by the Honorable Shikwambana, but how many schools have connectivity that works? And can we have, how many of them work at 10 megabits per second? How many of them work at 100 megabits per second, and any of the other speeds in between? The other thing as well is that I don't see evidence, and one of the other honorable members asked this, can we have a plan? This is in line with this question to the DCDT, but is there a plan actually? A plan with timeframes, deliverables? What is it that we are working towards? This would have to come from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. What measures are they putting in place to mitigate existing or identified challenges, or to resolve future challenges? And what of sustainability? Honorable Christian, just before me, mentioned this, both financially and materially. These projects are intended to have a time frame, but how are we going to ensure afterwards who's paying for the data, who's paying for the connectivity, who's paying maintenance? Are there plans around that? Let me leave it there, Chair, but it's disappointing and just heartbreaking to listen to presentations about this really, really important project that could be a game changer for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vilakazi. Honorable Komani.
Yeah, ga ke tšee sebaka se ko go leboga modulasetulo ke be ke tamiši le ba dikgokaganyo modulasetulo wa bobedi le ba ba sepelago le ena ke go le go bolelwa ka motlatša ministera mo Mahlaku Dumela ke laetse gore leina la ka ke Mashiadi ka Lensel Komane ke romme ke mokgatlo wa Economic Freedom Fighters. And then ke koša re tlo opela mehle a re nyarela le diphone lo tswa le tšhabeng motlatša ministera o ine lela wa gago wa Mphato ka gore go šetša go itshupa gore o ka re mohlomongwe ba lena bana bona gore ba meloko ya gabo lena ba tsena sekolo ka America mo South Africa ga ba gona. That is why le ka mokgwa wa gore Lady Bella Act ye gore e kgone go ba maikarabelong ka nako. Re tseba ga botse gore le lena le a tseba gore le hweditse thuto e ile go gore e be se ya hlamasega le tsene sekolo ka gare ga diemo tše boima le gone mo president o re rola morwalo o ile go gore o feta maphelo a lena ka go tsofala morwalo o ile gore o rwele ke bo magolo a lena mabapi le thuto le gone ba la fa monyetla ba re matlafatsegang tšeang le direng le sa re botša dinonwana re kgopela gore le botšeng ministera gore nonwane tše ka moka ga di fele re nyaka go bona pela pili e phethagala ka ponye ya leihlo. Ke go leboge ke re modulasetulo wa komiti ya ka Mahlako bašemane ba phalatša pele ba šetša ba ile digola e sa leba ga ile rena ba go tla morago re tlile go suela mošwang ka go rialo ke ra gore potšišo ya ka ya mathomo or boipelaetši wa ka wa mathomo o tlilo lebana le tshepedišo ya tša disability ka fase ga presentation ye e tlilego ka ba kgoro ya gago ya committee ya education. Ke kwa ke na le go se kgotsofale le ga ile gore ke a leboga ba kgonne go akaretša goba gona go kwešiša gore go na le batho ba phelago ka bogolofadi. Ke kwa ba bolela ka 348 schools tše e le gore di nyaka di-special attention tše e le gore ba kgonne go ka di matlafatša ka lenanego la yona ye ya tša dikgokaganyo. Jwalo bothata jwa ka bo ba gore ge e le gore mo dikolong tše 348 ba di bolelago e le go tša di-special ba kgonne go ka di matlafatša. A na bana ba e lego gore ba sa te kgwetša ba le dikolong tše wrong tša mang le mang ka thuto tša go ikgetha, bona ba tlilo kgona go ka dira gore ba matlafatšega jwang? Ka gore re kwešiša gore ge ba se ba le dikolong tše wrong di matlafatšo tša dikgokaganyo di tlago mo dikolong tša public tša ga mang le mang ga di ba ame, mara ba tlogetšwe mo dikolong tšeo. Gona go ira gore a re fone ro šiame go mareng ka gae ka gore ga re nna maitemogelo a bohlokwa jwa mmereko o re o dirago mabapi le tša dikgokaganyo. Ke buši ke tle tabeng ya maleme go ya ka go fapana. Tshepedišo ya lena ya department mo go tša dikgokaganyo mabapi le go kgokaganya thuto le tsona tšeo, a na le kgona go fihlelela šomišo ya maleme ka moka na? Kudu ka gore re kwešiša gore kwa dinagamagaeng di fela di fo ba ile gore a gore di šiwa morago go nyatšwa le maleme ya bona. Jwalo re nyaka go tseba gore ana dikgokagano tšeo tša lena di a kgona go covera di-language ka moka na? Se sengwe e be gore re kwa le bolela ka Vodacom, MTN and Cell C, ene ebile lefulo di tšea la di beakanya ka go ya ka mokgwa ile gore di phethagatša maikarabelo a tsona ka gona. Go ra re number 1 ke Vodacom, number 2 ke MTN, number 3 ke Cell C. Re be re rate go tseba gore le sa re dibetšeng ka Cell C ye ka gore šiu ye gana le go complya le go tla go tlo rwala maikarabelo kore e tletše go tlo fo patlama mo e sa le nyaka mo lenanegong la lena ga la sa suele le phepheng mollong ke moka ra tlogela go tlo hlwa le di-stepa di-presentation le re botša ka Cell C le gore e gana go ba accountable la e khurumeletša kwa thoko ka ga e compliance la ga le botša go le ba botšiša gore a na maikarabelo a bona ka gore a fihla mo papalela ke go fihlelela dinyakwa tše di le go gona ga ba tla ba account, they are nowhere to be found. What is the use to keep them on your own? Se sengwe re laetse gore re kwešiša gore go šetša go na le dipeakanyo tša mašeleng tše šetša go lebile ba le tsona mo go ICT le dikgokaganyo tša gona mo dikolong go ya ka go fapana ga tsona. Jwale re be re nyaka go tseba gore na ebile dikolo tše kae tšeo le kgonnego go di fihleletša ka mašeleng gona ile ya kgona go šomišega ka tsela mang? Ke moka re kgone go tseba gore tšwela pele e tlo ba jwang. Se sengwe se se nyamišago nko go feta molomo ke ge le bolela ka lenanego le la lena la tša dikgokaganyo le re le fihlelela fela administration. A na kgwekgwe ya kgopolo ya go tla ka dikgokaganyo le be le gopotse go thuša bana ba rena ba e lego gore ba bereka mmogo le barutiši goba sa lena e fo ba gore e felele ka mola ofising ya dikgokaganyo gona ga ile gore lebeletše go ka thuša bana ba ena ebile le kgonne go lemoga gore le šitwa ke go fihlelela bana le barutiši. Maikemišetšo a lena ke eng ka kgokaganyo tša lena? A na gona ga ile gore lena o maikemišetšo le tlilo kgona jwang go khabara bana ba rena gona neng? Ke tle go ya go tlilo dira molete Sekuba le ga e ka sebe ka namana pholwana ke re godimo ga dilo tša dikgokaganyo re kwešiša gabotse gore re hloka mohlagase jwalo ka ga wa Mphato a šetša e laeditše Ntate Sekwampana. Jwalo re rate go tseba gore a na ka gore re a tseba gore load shedding ga ya fela e no ba ile gore ba e fetotše sebopego ba e bitša ba re ke load reduction. Jwale re kgopele go tseba gore ana e le ya majwang mo go ditshepedišo tša lena gona ga ile gore ya leana backup ya lena e kgone go tšea nako e kae mo e lego gore ge re lebeletse di-houra tše di tšeago ke load reduction ga e tsamaye kgagatholela naga e hlabiša madi e tšea di-houra tše 3 4 5 re kgopela go tseba gore na backup ya lena e lego mo di-stationeng tša lena tša dikgokagano e kgone go tšea nako e kae mo e lego gore e ka kgona go kgotlelela tšhomišane ya yona e le gore ga se e ba ya tekemišetša yona ya load reduction le load shedding. And then ka go rialo ke latlhele la mafelelo la gore presenter ya communication o laetša e le gore bile wa phalatša pele o ka ra ba dira marathon nako a sa le kwa sekolo re tlile go kgopela gore a ithuti gore ge a presentela batho a be taba tša gago di tla le seatla e se ke ya napa e ba gore ba re le re neetše re tepaletše if e le gore le re neetše le re tepaletše le tlo go tia mabalankwe le tshela tšhemo ka ona mokgogo go ira gore re tlo tetemogela gore ga re neye batho ba maleba ba go phethagatša tšeo re di hlokago or re biditše batho ba e se go bona ga ke re pheladi ke a leboga re tlo letela bana ba kgoši ga ba tlilo e hlaba ka diloka re tlo gore ba e kgotsofatša kae e ba šia kae kudu ka gore re a tseba gore lenanego legolo fo a go thika mapokisana ka o tlo go hwetša re se ra arabega ena re be re hwetše re se ra ba ra fitlhelela selo ena re be re le lebogo gore kgokaganya le ba dikgokaganyo le ba kgoro ya tša thuto ena ba bone bohlokwa bja gore ba hlokana ka gore ntle ga gore ba dire segwera sa go swana le se ba se dirišago ke rena dilo tša bona di tlo ba tše di segodi ba di a hlapa mahlong ke a leboga Hunale.
A re go leboge Mhlomphegi Komane. Honorable members, unfortunately today we do not have interpretation services because of how we've convened the meeting. We were advised that it's short notice. I'm going to try and summarize the contributions of Honorable Komane. If I do by any means, Honorable Komane, misrepresent you, please do indicate. I'm going to try. The first issue that Honorable Komane raised was on the Bella Act, to say that as coming from the EFF, they are not going to accept any delay tactics, and as a result, they are telling the Deputy Minister to tell the Minister that the Act must be implemented with immediate effect. And that he did also mention, or Komane also mentioned, that he was covered by most of the previous speakers. But his questions was, firstly, he was concerned about the coverage of the connectivity for learners with disability, even though the department had indicated that about 348 schools of learners with disabilities benefited from the program. However, he asked, what about the learners with disabilities that are still attending mainstream schools? How do they then benefit? Understanding that the connectivity for these schools with learners with special needs would have received specialized form of intervention. Two, he alluded to issues of multilingualism. If the gadgets that we're providing through this e-education intervention cater for all the official languages. Three, the Honorable Komane asked, why is CELC still part of the program, since CELC is not complying and CELC is not even ready and willing to comply or to be held accountable. For that, already the department alluded to issues of budget, and the understanding is that there has been budget allocated and for the ICT rollout. Now the question was, how much has been spent up to this far, and how many schools have received this budget allocation? And then also the question was on the latest intervention of about 16,000 in most schools. Why is this intervention only targeting principals and teachers? Why is it an intervention that only for administration? how do we ensure that we integrate learners and how do they benefit from this latest rollout of 16,000 schools? Also, how is load reduction affecting the connectivity in the schools, and what is the backup plan of the department? And lastly, it was on the presenter of comms. The presenter presented the presentation of communication. Mr. Komane was alluding that the presenter ought to present more efficiently next time, and also must indicate or show, inspire some bit of hope. And also, Mr. Komane appreciated the platform that has been created. Ntate Komane, ke tshepa gore ke lekile moresho.
Ga ke go leboga Mahlako, ke laetse gore ga ile kgomo le silivera ga ke natso nka be go go lahlelela Mahlako go hlagolla selabi maswing ke tloga ke lela shaidi ke tielopo la kgorora ga mpeile ka bogare.
Okay, no, that's fine. So that was Honorable Komane. Now we will move to Honorable Makubele. Honorable Makubele.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I don't know if you can see me. To put this devices
It's not longer on the platform. Let's move to
here.
Honorable Ngubane. Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry, I was just struggling to. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see you, Honorable Makubele.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Chairperson, and to our Chairperson as well. Thank you for the opportunity. Oh, my humble apologies. I don't know. It looks like my network is hanging. If you don't hear me, let me know. But it's just giving me a funny sign on my end.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Chairperson, let me start here. I would like to express also my disappointment that we don't have the executives here to come and account. It's very difficult when we come and provide oversight and the people that we're supposed to provide oversight upon are not available. And had we known, perhaps we should have looked at another date in order to actually be able to talk to the right people. But we appreciate, I think there's a deputy minister and the officials and other presentations that have been conducted for us. First, to my chairperson, DCDT, I can actually appreciate the challenges that you are facing because I know the department that you have inherited to chair the oversight committee. It's a difficult department that is fraught with so much non-compliance, project overrun, funds that cannot be accounted, projects that are not being implemented. And all of this that we're talking about today is dependent on the entities that are falling in this department. And it doesn't look like there's integration. I've listened to the presentation. SETA is involved. There's issues in SETA, serious issues in SETA. Therefore, a project like this, I don't even know where it falls in their priority radar. Broadband, Infraco, you've got USASA, who have failed to provide universal connectivity until now. That's why we've got all of these schools that cannot be connected, while government has an entity called USASA that should have provided this connectivity years ago. Digital migration is supposed to be done, not done. ICASA with the spectrum issues, we don't know when that will be resolved. So we've got all of these dependencies besides dependency of basic education. That makes this important project so difficult. And I'm just thinking, my chairperson, that since 2007, we've been implementing Gauteng Online, and the chairperson of ICASA will also attest to this. This is not new, what we are trying to do here. Of course, that was provincial, and I think in the 2018, 2019, that's when this project in particular starts. Now, fast forward to where we are, Chair. I'll start here. We are today in 2025, implementing 100 megabytes per second to a school with 24 devices. I'm asking myself sitting here, are we actually doing this important task as a generational obligation from an ethical perspective to say we need to transform education, give our children an opportunity in life, give them connectivity, which is, by the way, a universal, it's a human right, actually. It's a basic necessity since 2016. It's a universal right for every child to be connected. Are we doing this for the right reason or just to tick a box? In a school that has no infrastructure, you've got over 500 to 1,000 kids, you give them 24 devices and 100 megabytes per second. Why are we continuing to do this? What is the goal? What is the vision for doing this project? Because clearly we are not doing this for learning, that our children can be on par with the world, learn coding, artificial intelligence, be able to compete with our counterparts around the world. We look like we just want to drop the devices, say we've connected this, and the connectivity then is only good for administrative purposes, if at all it connects. Now, we need to answer this question from really ethical perspective. Why are we doing this? And are we doing what is going to provide meaningful transformation for our schools or not? And this has to be answered by the executives that should have been here. Technically, the 24 devices, the audits, there's an honorable member that has already spoken on that. There are schools that you are saying have connectivity, but you don't know whether they have devices or not. Then what is the point? What is the end goal? If you are not doing the audits, meaning that we are not even going to check whether there is people are using these devices, are extracting value from these devices and connectivity, because we just ticked a box that we've dropped a router somewhere, therefore there's connectivity, whether it helps a school or not, nobody bothers around that. 3, I really wish the Minister of Basic Education was here, because there are schools that we went to see that cannot even afford to fix their own windows. They don't have the budget to fix doors, broken infrastructure, things that they need desperately. They can't even pay electricity, some of them. And you are saying to us that this connectivity costs 16,000 per school. How is that being paid? So meaning, if they don't pay their cutoff, my prediction is that half of them are not paying this. And are they cut off? Which school is actually connected, able to pay, and able to extract value from this connectivity? Now, we've got this 2030 target of 1 gig by 2030, which is another target that I would like to find out from the Minister of DCDT. How far are we from achieving this target of 1 gig by 2030 if we're still struggling with 100 megabytes per second, where we've got, I saw your numbers, those 16, how many schools, 1,200 schools or so that are connected? How far are we from this target, and how realistic is it? Because UN says 2030, universal access must have been achieved. Are we going to be meeting these targets? If not, what are the plans that are in place to ensure that we meet these targets? And are these other entities that I've mentioned before working in alignment talking to one another to ensure that as a country we meet those targets. We've seen with digital migration, my chairperson, that it's very difficult to meet these targets. We've been postponing. Are we also going to be postponing the universal access target of 2030? The rest of the questions the other honorable members have raised, so I think I'm not going to repeat them, but I'm going to wrap up with this, that we as South Africa, we're supposed to be leading, and we had a first advantage to lead in terms of broadband implementation, universal access, fiber rollout, etc. I know the chairperson of USASA has been in this industry for a long time, and yourself, my chairperson, you understand what I'm talking about. But we've got countries in Africa that have overtaken us who are lesser than us in many respects. My question is, what is the hindrance? What is hindering us from achieving this broadband access? Is it the issue of skills within the entities that have been tasked with this, the entities that are within DCDT? Is the sabotage of some sort? Is it private sector sabotaging? Can we pinpoint what is the hindrance in achieving what we want to do? Why countries like Kenya, Rwanda, Egypt, Tanzania, they're already rolling out even to rural schools with satellite and other things. Children are already doing online learning. We are rolling out to do administrative work. I don't know which teacher is going to be doing administrative work on a computer when their children are learning manually. We are rolling out in 2024 connectivity to do administrative work. We are not even chasing artificial intelligence, fourth industrial revolution. The world is moving to fifth industrial revolution. Our children are left behind. Truly, they are left behind. They are not even talking coding. Some of them are matriculating. They have not even touched the device. They see it for the first time in varsity, just like we did. Are we truly approaching this in our generation from an ethical perspective and our moral obligation to help transform those that are coming behind us? Or we are going to be like our predecessors, and in 10 years' time, they're going to be looking at these numbers again, saying, what have these people been doing for the past 5 years that they were in office? I will rest here, Chairperson. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Honorable Makubele. Honorable Ngubane.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me quickly. I think, Chair, we appreciate the presentation from both the basic education as well as the DCDT and the work that has been done. Chair, the most things that are critical is to understand the entities that haven't met the obligations. If we can probably, maybe we are getting we were getting updated on the project when it's in the middle, maybe it's already gone far. But even if that's the case, if maybe the presenters would have assisted us by presenting us with a project management plan so that we can see when the project was started, where it is, what are the risks pertaining to the project, what targets have been met, and what are those ones that are behind. As well, so that we can know, Chair, that what are the penalty measures in place to make sure that these companies comply in meeting a target as envisaged by the DBE and DCTT. And then, Chair, where as well with these companies.
He's asking questions.
Pardon?
On the floor, and you keep calling and calling.
Honorable Makubele, can you mute?
Hello?
You can continue, Honorable Ngubane. Apologies for that interruption.
Okay, thanks, Chair. And then as well, we need to know how do we tighten the penalties to avoid companies that will choose to pay penalties rather than embarking on the obligations that they are given on. In the country where companies choose an easy route not to assist the country to move forward. as well as the other questions is what are other alternatives in place that we have in the country to meet these obligations? Because I've seen as well how things sometimes they have their own other school connectivity project, as well as I think eThekwini. So if in that project plan we can see as well what are other alternatives in place that will assist both the DBE and DCDT to meet these targets that we want to meet. Because at the end of the day, what is more crucial is to deliver this connectivity project so that all the schools are able to be connected. And then, Chair, the duty to monitor what is expected on the delivery of this project. We need to know as well whose responsibility it is to monitor who is doing what, how far are they doing it, are they delivering what is expected? If we say we expected 500 megabytes in certain place, is there someone who has that duty to check really that 500 megabytes is exactly what is delivered, is not less than that? And as well, one other member mentioned that it's not only delivery of this project, it's even the gadgets and other equipment that needs to be utilized by these kids to use this connectivity. And then, Chair, in closing, I would like to appreciate as well the MTN for going an extra mile. At least there is one, probably in many service providers, that is managing, not only to do what is asked as well, go an extra miles and do more than what is expected. We appreciate for these entities that does that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubani. Honorable Sapriti.
Thank you, Chairperson. And let me join my comrades here in beginning by expressing what I believe is a serious national concern, Chairperson. Chairperson, as we know that coding and robotics as a subject had an intention of full-scale implementation for grades 4 and grade 6. And grade 8 was planned for 2024 and grade 9 for full implementation in 2025. Now, Mr. Shlabane, the Chief Director of MST and Curriculum Enhancement Program said, in introducing coding and robotics, he said that the world and place of work is changing rapidly, that future careers requires persons with digital skills that will equip and enable them to function effectively in a digital era. And he goes on in saying that the teaching of coding and robotics will equip and expose learners to digital literacy, to virtual reality, to augmented reality, to machine learning, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things. And that the future requires individuals who will be able to build robots and other sophisticated machines and to develop algorithms to code these machines. Now, Chairperson, I began with an introduction because these are the words of a chief director from the DBE in introducing the subject of coding and robotics, which is crucial. The Honorable President has outlined persistently the crucial of importance for us of creating a digital economy, of us creating and unpacking the digital opportunities. And this responsibility, the sacred responsibility, sits with the Department of Basic Education to ensure that our children and our learners are sufficiently equipped and skilled in the schools to do this. And enabling this environment is a responsibility of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. Chairperson, my question is, where did we drop the ball? Clearly, for what we have gathered here, it is the digital system that has been created is only for enabling the administrative function. But how does our millions of learners become digitally literate? Is digital literacy for our children only what they will get when they are exposed to their cell phones, sitting on TikTok, on WhatsApp? How is meaningful teaching and learning going to take place if we don't create a digitally connected ecosystem that's sustainable, that's reliable. And we've heard my colleagues before us talk about other African countries that have come before us but have progressed. Chairperson, this asks us to ask this as a joint committee. It forces us, therefore, to ask some compelling questions. As I said, where did we drop the ball? And crucially important is, what is the roadmap going forward? Now, when we did the high spectrum auction in 2022, there were certain conditions, and those conditions were not met. And more so, my concern is, and perhaps ICASA, this is direct towards ICASA, how are we going to ensure that in future high spectrum, high demand spectrum options in the future auction, that no one is left behind? And when I say no one is left behind, I am talking about those schools, and particularly those schools in the rural areas. This is a sacred responsibility for us to ensure that our children, when they depart, I mean, during my back to school visits, I visited 10 public schools. And one of the areas we focused on, and yesterday I got the great news that we have been pushing for support and sponsorship for coding and digital and robotic labs. And many of these schools are challenged financially, as one of the honorable members mentioned. They don't have proper doors and windows. They're not going to be able to pay a copious amount of money in data. This should be a responsibility that state should embrace. So chairpersons and honorable chairpersons, I am calling for a specific task team, and I'm proposing a task team by these two departments that meets and presents the joint committees with an action plan. Given the fact that we have this responsibility, and given the fact that we have established in this sitting that we do not have a digitally connected environment for our children. So I'm asking for an action plan with date, times, and specific of how we're going to alter this. I'm also calling upon ICASA to give us their action plan in terms of when we come towards the next spectrum auction. How are we going to ensure that nobody is truly left behind? And at this juncture, let me also join my predecessor colleague in complimenting MTN for really doing and going the extra bit in terms of meeting their obligations and doing more. Chairperson, right at the outset, special schools was mentioned. Who or what is a special school, and how does it differentiate itself from other schools? That wasn't defined, and please excuse the ignorance. We're from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. There was an amount of 16,000 rand that was required to be paid. To whom was this paid? And why was this paid? I would imagine this connectivity. And of course, my colleagues have joined me in really asking that what has happened with CELSI. Only 26 schools connected, and we are now sitting at 2024. We would like to hear that what is the consequences as we stand for CELSI. Chairperson, I think my colleagues have covered me largely, and I'll pause here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Shomwe.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to echo the words of my colleague, Honorable Sehlengubani, on MTN. But on doing so, I wonder, how do we get here with companies like CELSI who feel it's a standard norm for them to not deliver? And the expectation is that with government projects, you can do whatever you want and then later claim that, I'm sorry, I couldn't deliver, and nothing happens to you. So I think we should set a precedence in companies such as that, because we end up not delivering what we are expected from our people. Now, the biggest challenge that comes to the connectivity of the schools, Chair, is the lack of centralized coordination in connecting schools. And while there's a plethora of projects that are taken since back in the day of making sure which we connected schools, there is that thing of sorry for the chair. there's so many companies that are given these projects to work on this thing, but the most important thing is that there's a lack of maintenance in this project, and sustainability becomes the crucial problem. We're coming back from the data then, and then for IR, going forward to now going to AI. I do believe that it is our responsibility to take the country from level 1 to level 10. Then the next generation that comes after us is to take it from 10 to the next stage. But if you go on oversight and look at all these infrastructures, you'll find that it's just a standard practice that they are just installed for the sake of installed. Take the money and leave it as it is. Come a year or two, these things are not working. Why do that keeps on happening? Is it the lack of us taking hard measures on these entities or the companies that install this thing? While you have companies like MTN who are willing to further maintain these projects. And you continue noticing that the lack of coordination is a problem. You find that there's a lot of duplication in most of the installed infrastructures. You find that we are now wasting a lot of resources that were much needed. We've been in one of the oversights somewhere in Eastern Cape, if I'm not wrong. We'll find in one library or school, there's two connectivity and the other one is not working, the other one is working. Or the other one is slower, the other one is faster. Why do we keep on doing that when we need those resources to further use them? Okay, we are spending apparently 9 something million monthly. Are we getting return of the investment on that money? Or do we keep this as a standard practice, as a norm? I'm afraid, I was checking, Chair, if I may come to this. I apologize for this. 5 years ago, the same questions we are asking here, the same worries we are talking about here, is the very same thing that we were talking about. What is it that we need to do to change the status quo? Because I worry even myself to become that person who understands that it is a norm to come to Parliament, sit with the entities, ask them questions, and nothing gets to be done. Then end of the day, all of us get our salaries and go home. But to the poor people who pay their taxes, nothing. When I say nothing, I mean, go to those schools, you'll find that schools are given 24 tablets, while in the class there's about 50 or 60 children in that class. And those children are not allowed to even bring cell phones in the class, because once they bring those cell phones disturb them, they play games and all those things. While they are not allowed to bring cell phones, they are not even given enough material to use on this data that we say that we've connected them onto. So I don't know, Chair, whether we should look deeply into this thing, the system on how we are operating, on making sure people understand that this is not a look busy, Jesus is coming situation. So, Chair, I think let's look for value for the money that we are paying into this, especially the companies like Cabo Celsi. Let's do something, Chair, about that. Thank you.
Honorable Chauke.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and Co-Chairperson as well from both the department, and also thank you very much to the presenters and the two presentations that have been made. Chairperson, my contribution is going to start off by speaking about the special needs schools. And one has to raise quite a critical concern through the observation of working with special needs schools over the past, I can say, 5 years, where we have seen programs of this nature being implemented, but there is not adequate monitoring and evaluating of its impact. Now, one would want to... Apologies, Chairperson, am I still audible?
Yes, you're audible now.
Apologies, Chairperson, for that. One would want to find out in terms of the monitoring and evaluation matrix that is currently being utilized by the departments, in order for them to track the progress on the implementation of this program, especially when we seek to achieve digital transformation and inclusion. This can only be achieved by us tracking and evaluating and monitoring steady data of whether it is successful, whether it's been maintained or not. Additionally, I think my colleagues have also alluded to the fact that one would want to know what are the consequence management formulas that will then be applied or have been drafted in order for us to ensure that there is a sense of accountability, but also we have companies such as yourself and other institutions being held accountable for not meeting the obligations and responsibilities that are put onto them in order for us to achieve and really curve or close the digital divide. Additionally, we know that there are many resources that have been allocated in ensuring connectivity in our communities, but most importantly, in our academic institutions. But you have seen dilapidating infrastructure, you have seen lack of maintenance, you have seen lack of training. I know I go and visit a special needs school, and you'll find that there's a resource center that has been established 4 or 5 years ago, but the equipment has not been maintained, number one. Number two, there's no one who has brought any form of training to even train the teachers to know how to utilize the equipment that has been dropped off at the institution. And then lastly, the learners are not capacitated and well-resourced in order for them to excel while utilizing these devices. Lastly, Chairperson, what has been implemented in many of the private schools is the Minecraft education that seeks to really address AI, robotics, etc., coding, etc. And we've seen significant progress and development within these institutions. But what is the true intention from the public sector in ensuring that this program, a program of this nature, is truly meeting the requirements of those who need it the most? Because we know that technology is forever evolving, and we need to keep up with the technological and digital developments, and our children need to do that as well in order for them to acquire skills that will allow or let me say that will allow for them to be able to enter into the open labor market and also contribute towards the growing economy. And the growing economy is within the digital space. Lastly, a chairperson, in terms of resource allocation, and one would want to find out, is the resource allocation separated in accordance to the different types of schools? You know, you've got your quintile 1 to 5, if I'm correct. You've got your special needs schools. You've got your schools of integrated learnings, or is it an umbrella approach? And then lastly, it would be in terms of the the service providers that have partnered with the institutions and the department. What type of reporting tool is utilized? And I think this needs to speak towards quarterly reporting in order for the departments to be able to diagnose early, I can say early challenges, for lack of a better word, before we find ourselves having very devastating impact on programs of this nature, because these programs are very much needed and we have seen the impact that they have. But if we let them continue with such deficiencies, then we're not going to achieve it. Because now we've spoken about 4IR. Have we achieved the 4IR agenda and mandate in order for us to move on to the next part of development? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chauke. That was the last hand on the platform. I just wanted to caution members that it's currently 16:28, and when we opened the meeting, we indicated that we've got 2 hours for this joint portfolio committee meeting. So it's just a caution, honorable members, that we are going to just overlap in terms of time, understanding that, of course, there's 2 committees and it was 2 presentations. So just be patient with us. I see Honorable Sitole. I had seen your hand earlier, including Honorable Matafa. I thought maybe you were covered. Honorable Sitole, is that the last hand on the platform? Because we really need to start just managing our Honorable Sitole.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to co-chairs. First of all, Honorable Chairperson, we have to appreciate the presentation, both presentation, because it helps us to understand the challenges that the country is facing, the challenge that schools are facing. But only few things that, Honorable Chairperson, because other of my question were covered by other members. But what I'm trying to check, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of provinces. If the indication from the provinces that they are not going to pay, they are not going to budget for these projects. What was the reason for the province to say that? And they are all 9 provinces say the same thing, or few provinces, if that one can be clarified, Honorable Chairperson. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of allocation of liquid in Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga. There were no allocation for those provinces. If they can give us the reason why those provinces were not actually allocated. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, I have a problem now, the issue of vandalism, because they are saying there was some vandalism of network equipment. There was no security to secure the equipment. What was the problem? Why there is no alternative to secure the equipment? If that one was actually look after, I don't think that we can talk about vandalism when there is the equipment that's happening down there. And the other one, Honorable Chairperson, that is worrying me is the issue of schools, because if they can actually make a breakdown of per school, the SA Connective Phase 1 and the USAF, because I'm trying to check how many districts were connected in Phase 1, not per province but per district, because it can give us the idea. Because if you are saying a district Umzinyathi have Umsinga, Ngutu, Umvoti, which is falling under Umzinyathi. So now we have to know how that connectivity, where does it actually happen in Phase 1? And the last one, Honorable Chairperson, because there's some of my questions have been taken by other members. I'm worried about the consequence management from the service provider that failed to provide the service that's supposed to be provided by them. Is any consequence management that happened to those service provider, or it is just as normally the job was done because there was no consequence management for them? Because, Honorable Chairperson, if you don't take action against those service provider, it means the country is not going forward. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Sitole. There's one question from Honorable Nube on the platform. She just sent it to me saying that she's struggling with network connectivity. The question is directed to DBE, and the question is there a program meant to assist matriculants to access unlimited data, due to the fact that matriculants are studying 24/7, and at times they are expected to share studying or learning materials on WhatsApp groups. So is there such a program where learners who are in matric automatically get a package so that they're able to cope with the amount of work at that level? That is the question to DBE. I'm going to give the chairperson of comms and digital to also maybe reflect on the presentations, and then we're going to I have a few questions to the two departments, and then we'll allow them to respond.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, and let me join you in thanking all the honourable members for the submissions. Chairperson, I'm very despondent, right? I'm very despondent, and I don't know if there's any value to our time that's even going to be had from us listening to the responses from the departments. The reason I say that, it's either, if you look at the presentations that have been put before us and the questions that the members are asking, either the departments are not prepared, or this program is the mess that it seems to be coming across as. And the last thing we want, as Honorable Shongwe said, is that we come to this meeting, we ask questions, probing questions that the members have asked, then we're given some glib answers and we all go away. I'm tempted, Chairperson, to want to make a recommendation to you that we should not give them an opportunity to respond. I think the departments need to go back and think about this program and think about the future of these children that supposedly they're supposed to be part of crafting. Maybe ask themselves some questions that if it was their kids who are in these schools, would they be satisfied with what they are proposing? Because if you ask just one simple question, I think it was asked by Honorable Vilakazi, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Honorable Makuel, where they said, what is the connectivity model? So can you tell us, what is this thing supposed to look like, even before you give us progress? Does it speak to, for example, the issues of one, the speeds, 10 megabits here, 100 megabits there, one day, hopefully it will come together. Does it speak about the resources? I mean, if you listen to the presentation from DBE, it said there's access to connectivity, but some are not connected. What's the point? Like Honorable Makubelo was saying, what's the point? So have you defined what connectivity looks like? Have you defined the learning devices in every school? Now you're going to put up this connectivity. Members have said these kids don't even have some devices. I know that there was a program by DBE that was supposed to phase out textbooks, bring in tablets. Was that done? Is it working collaboratively? Do you look at the skills that you deploy? We've moved now, we start talking about digital public infrastructure. With Cisco, it's supposed to have open access capabilities, supposed to be shared and interoperable. When you are deploying as part of this program, do you say that this is the type of deployment that we want as systems that are supporting this connectivity? Or, some of us just say, okay, we've laid down fiber and then we walk away. Do we also ensure that in the process, the skills that are required, are we bringing NEMISA on board? Are we saying to NEMISA, we're going to be connecting in the next 3 months so many schools? Once we are done, we come back to you and we say, please deploy some training here, even if it's just online safety for the children. DBE will look at the curriculum issues. Do you have a connectivity plan that speaks to all of those? And ultimately, the issues that members were raising around funding and the operational requirements. What happens after the 5 years? What happens after the 12 years? Chairperson, the way I was so confused in this presentation, I went to Google and I Googled how many schools are there in South Africa. Now, the people in this room will know better than me, but Google told me there are 23,000 schools more or less in the country. What I now find very strange is that we are told here that during the legacy obligations, 5,000 schools or so, my numbers are not exact, 5,200 or so were connected by the MNOs, the mobile network operators. Under the universal service obligations, they have been given 18,520 schools. Now, according to my Google universe of 23,000 schools, it means that we are expecting the private sector through the obligations to connect all schools. Is that correct? Because if that is correct, I then want to know what is the purpose then of having an SA Connect, or does SA Connect not speak to schools? If it doesn't speak to schools, why is it in the presentation? Because there it seems to indicate that, you know, there's some role that SA Connect says. But a more fundamental problem for me is, so these service providers, I mean, I heard the members speaking about, you know, punitive measures, consequence management, and so forth, which is correct. But these MNOs, it's not their primary responsibility to be connecting our schools. We've been asking in the committee, what market failure were we trying to fix as a state with the establishment of the broadband in Frako? And we were told it is because the MNOs are not doing what they're supposed to do. Granted, it's obligations, it's not their primary job. We impose that challenge on them. Now, we are now also relegating the connectivity of the future of this country to obligations, and then we run around upset that it's not happening. Chairperson, linked to the connectivity model issue, do we even have an op center, like a national operations center, where we know, okay, that school is on, it's operating, that school is not operating, this one is connected? Or are we just laissez-faire about this whole thing? You know, we're just leaving it to chance. We'll see what the MNOs come and report. Maybe we'll audit, do a sample here and there. I don't think it's fair, Honorable Chairperson. And I'm very disturbed about this report that we're getting. And I do thank you also for having said that we need to delve deeper into this issue. And I'm hoping that we will be able to do that. Chairperson, the issue that Honorable Shongwe spoke about duplication, we cannot emphasize that enough. I'd want to know why MNOs are not allowed to swap their allocations amongst themselves. Because you would have a school that perhaps was connected by Telkom under the legacy obligations. This time you give it to Vodacom. You want to put 2 lines running to that school. Why? If there's a problem with the initial connections, then allow Telkom to go back there. You should have the data for them to be able to do it. Why is this restriction on the swapping of allocations, and why would one to do that? But also on duplication, Chairperson, you can ask Huawei, you can ask Microsoft, you can ask any other of these multinationals that operate in the space, which the department is supposed to be giving leadership to. People wake up, they decide we want to have a CSI program, they go off, they go and connect a school there in Lukangeni. I don't think the department even knows. Now, is there coordination of all of these things, whether it is SA Connect, whether it is the universal service obligations, whether it's the CSI programs, everything that is happening around the space, who is responsible for it, and ensuring that it is done in the manner that is supposed to be done. I'm very keen also, Chairperson, to find out from both CETA or the Department of Communications and the DBE on the issues of what ultimately is the purpose of this program, which is e-learning, or at least a digital environment that supports learning. Has there been a discussion to say, as part of our connectivity model, at the very least, a school should have a room that's got a big screen projector thing where you are able to do your lessons, you are able to connect with, if the best teacher in the country in mathematics is sitting in Bilu in Limpopo, that teacher is able to connect and teach children who are sitting in Otswan. Is there such a thinking? And maybe, Chair, I sound like I'm belaboring the point, but I feel that there is no collective vision that is driving this, because the issue of the internet connectivity should just be plugging into a broader strategy, which I believe that the DCDT should be championing, and then bringing into championing as part of its mandate of digitization of public services. Then on the issues of norms, of standards, of curriculum, that is where the DBE is supposed to fit in. There are kids in some rural areas who sit with tablets, they have no connectivity. But what about a child who is then in a township school right next to that area where the rural area is? They don't have tablets. How is there standardization across our education system? I really, really have problems with that, Chairperson. And I do want to say that, I went through the numbers, and even the numbers are not numbering. I think maybe if DBE goes and looks at table 14 and table 15 of their presentation, the tables on page 14 and 15, you will see there that it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense. OpenServe is then doing 1,200 schools. Do they have a standard framework that they are working on? Or is it just Telkom saying, okay, these ones fall within our footprint, we'll connect them for you? Is it, again, standardized across? So, Chairperson, my proposal is that we need to sit again on this properly. And I'm hoping that this time we won't get a sense that there's no collaboration, there's no coordination. We are shaking off our responsibilities to the private sector, and we don't have a vision of what a digital public infrastructure for our schools is going to look like, because right now I'm not convinced. But I thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity just for my reflections. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think one wants to echo the sentiments, I think, of the members of both portfolio committees, and just the sentiments of my co-chair just now. When we had an interaction with the co-chair on this very specific matter, I remember how we engaged on the different reports that we are getting, both in the different portfolio committees. And we were at pains to really reconcile the reports that we were getting. And I do believe that in having this joint and creating this joint committee platform has really assisted us to really, unpack those bottlenecks that we've seen. I want to firstly agree with you, Co-Chair, that the policy development on ICT in education, where this government has alluded to the fact that they want to establish a technology-enhanced learning initiatives, dates back to your 1995. Now it's 30 years from 1995. So in 1995 already, this conversation was had by this government on ensuring that we establish a technology-enhanced learning initiatives. And yet we are here today, and I agree with you that we are now listening to progress, and indeed the numbers are not numbering. And I'll get to the numbers that are not numbering. Now, all of this work is derived from the white paper 7, as the presentation from DPE correctly alludes. That's very much correct. If you go to the internet, as some of us or all of us would have went to the internet, you then say, okay, what has been the comprehension or the objectives of this government as it relates to e-education or integrating ICT in our schooling system? You get the white paper 7, the e-education white paper that was enacted in 2004 already. And then it defines, there was a defined focus area. Government had an idea of a connectivity or an e-education package. And the focus areas are defined in that white paper. And one is ICT professional development for management, teaching and learning, ICT teacher development levels, ICT infrastructure, connectivity and research and development. So these were the focus areas. The department at that time had an idea on the kind of package that it was looking for. my own reflection is that that was the initial, what you call the original sin. So this is a white paper for the Department of Basic Education. But if you go to the Department of Comms, they don't really refer to this white paper. So the objectives, the goal, the vision was not shared. It was of the Department of Basic Education. I think that is the original sin. There is no collaboration. There is no joint planning on a program that solely depends on two departments, because the Department of Basic Education can't roll out ICT in schools. It's not their line function. They don't have the skill. They don't have the capacity. So the capacity lies in another department, but this department alone developed this white paper, and you don't get a sense that there was equal planning where this will be a shared objective. And as a result, you can then say it is actually an objective for both departments. It's a goal, it's an objective for both departments. And I think we need to correct that. One or the other, we really need to correct that. Number two, the Department of Basic Education in their presentation says they conducted a feasibility study. And this is what a lot of members were speaking or alluding to say, how do you commission a program without understanding the terrain, the environment in which you're going to implement this program? So the department already did a feasibility study. Now, my question is, when you conduct a feasibility study, the feasibility study tells you about the capacity of the department, both in provinces, in districts, and circuits, in terms of resources. So you already know that as a department, this is how much we get as an allocation from Treasury. This is how much provinces get, and this is how much is allocated to schools. So that feasibility study tells you that there is no single school that is going to afford to pay 16,500 per month. That's the start. So you know. So the feasibility study assists you to design a program and to design a package that is in line with the material conditions on the ground. And the second original thing, I don't think both departments really went to that feasibility study and really utilized the findings of that feasibility study to design the program. As a result, the program will fail. The program is failing because there is no school. Seated here, I know there is no school that can afford 16,500 per month. It can't be, because schools are still struggling with maintenance and repair budgets of infrastructure, just the normal infrastructure. My thirdly is that we ought to arrive at a point as the Department of Basic Education where we understand that ICT infrastructure ought to be part and parcel of the norms of our infrastructure in school. So when we speak about this is the kind and ideal school that we as South African government believe we should have, it's a school that should have ramp, a school that should have this kind of classrooms. ICT infrastructure must be part and parcel of those norms and guidelines. And I don't know if it is now. If it is, then we are lagging far behind in terms of really getting to comply with that norm. Now, if you go to the context where we started with this program. So in 2014, the Department of Basic Education also then developed what you call an implementation strategy for e-education, which also determined the focus areas. But this implementation strategy, secondly, it is not in collaboration with the Department of Comms. So again, the Department of Basic Education developed this strategy, and there is no reference to a collaborative work in terms of developing. So you develop an implementing strategy when you are not the implementing agent. And that for me is another problem, So the implementing agent comes later with you saying, look, this is what we want you to do. And they say, well, it can't be done because you did not plan with them. We did not develop this strategy with them. So for me, there is issues, gaps in terms of how we have rolled out this program. Now, this is where now the discrepancies that the co-chair is you were given only a presentation about the rollout in 5,000 something schools. So, and then we're not given a breakdown of the schools which have benefited from the provincial programs. But ultimately, we hear that currently, as we sit, 80.1% of the schools have connectivity. Does the department want to say to this joint portfolio? Do you want to commit? Do you want to be on record saying that it is accurate that 80.1% of our schools, that is 80.1% of the 23,000 schools that we have, public schools we have in the country, have access to connectivity? I want to just get that clarity because in terms of the numbers you've given us and the breakdown, 5,000 can be 80.1%. Okay. Unless if you give us a breakdown of the schools that are also benefiting from the provincial programs, and you give us numbers that really gives us this 80.1%. Now, if you go to the issue about the current intervention in the current program in place of the 16,000 schools where you're only going to cater for, why? Why do we even consider it? Is it in line with the focus areas or the objectives of the white paper? If it is not in line, why do we do it? Why do we want to tick boxes? So do you want Parliament to assist you or to say, no, it's fine, go and tick boxes? We can't. Unfortunately, we can't. We can't say to you, and we can't aid you in ticking boxes. I do not understand why do you sit as the two departments and you correctly agree that, no, let's go and just give this connectivity to the admin block, because it means this connectivity would be at an admin block. How does that enhance learning and teaching in those schools? How does it build, or how does it effectively implement? How is that effectively implementing the objectives of the White Paper 7? And if it is not, why do we do it? Why don't we say, look, let us re-look at this thing and find ways to implement? Because you just want to come to us and say, we've reached the target, when we know that is not reaching a target. It's not. Now, lastly, I think one honorable member spoke about a project plan. I do not think there is any piece of paper from both departments that we can rely on as the both portfolio committees, where both departments are saying this is what we commit to doing in this period of time. We have a white paper that the Department of Comms is not part of, the implementation strategy that the Department of, because they are not signatories to that. So there's no MOU. What you have is the department meeting at a level of officials and speaking about specifications. So there is nothing binding to both the departments. Okay, maybe DPE is binding, but for comms, it's not binding. It's a by the way issue because they've got other competing responsibilities. And I think there's a major problem. How do we hold you accountable? Where have you committed? Because obligations are something else. There is no document, either a regulation or a white paper, whatever that is, from both departments where we can say as legislation that, look, this is your paper, and we can also contribute in terms of participating in the finalization of that document, where both of you make the commitment that, yes, us as a recipient, which is basic education, and as a department that is responsible for maintenance, security, and this and that and that, and as a department that is responsible for giving specification in terms of the kind of package that we require for learning and teaching, this is our role. And a com saying our role is to really roll out this, and this is what we'll do, where we can refer to as both the portfolio committees and hold you accountable on that. There is nothing. And for me, that's a huge problem. And I think that's something that, and as a result, I want to agree with the proposal of Honorable Co-Chair that seated where we are, I'm very disappointed with the presentations because of the lack of progress. And Honorable Makuele is correct. Are we doing this thing for the sake of doing it? The pace as well of doing it. So for 30 years, we've just been really laboring on how we do this, how we do that, how we, you know. So I really want to agree, and if committee members agree, that we really set up a follow-up meeting, perhaps within a period of 3 weeks, where we allow the two departments to go and really reconcile their presentations. Of course, we'll allow them to respond to questions that they can respond to, but we don't want to have this meeting for the sake of having a meeting. We also don't want to play the role of ticking boxes. We want out of this role of holding the executive accountable and playing oversight to see really tangible results that really impact on the 13 million learners that are in the system. So my proposal is that both the departments must, in these 3 weeks, go and reconcile their presentations and really give us tangible account of what they have done. If they believe that what they have done is in line with the objectives of the White Paper 7, and which objective have they really fulfilled out of the 5 or the 4, in terms of their own work, which objective have they fulfilled? And then they then say to us as a department, as Parliament, that we are proposing or recommending that within the scope, within the environment of unlimited resources, because everywhere there's budget cuts, within this space and this terrain, this is what we can do. Secondly, this is what we are going to do to increase the pace of our implementation. Lastly, this is what we are going to do to ensure that there's consequence management for those who are given responsibilities and they are not doing those responsibilities. I do believe that we need to give you that responsibility, and you come back at least within 3 weeks and you give us this, and then we start saying we are seeing light. And lastly, you give us, because there's a feasibility study that has been done by also one department now, which is the Department of Comms. They've done a feasibility study and they say it has not been approved because of the resources that are concerned. Now you must come to us and tell us in terms of what we should be doing and the object and the goal of having reached universal access in 2030. This is what we believe we ought to do for us to reach that goal. We really need you to really bring thought and thoroughly think through this and also respond on the 16,000 schools. That why would you choose and why? Give us mitigation as to why do you believe it will be prudent for you to really roll out this integration for just admin blocks in schools. And tell us, because we're saying that is not adequate. We are saying we can't accept that. We don't accept it. So tell us if in terms of your own discussions and deliberations amongst yourselves, tell us if what can you do to review that? Is it possible for you to review that so that you integrate, or you can then say to us, well, this is where we will start. But in a period ranging from a year, we will have integrated the learners in those 16,000 schools and their access to this connectivity. So I'm proposing that. I don't know if members of the committee would agree with that proposal to say, really, the responses that we'll get here, I don't think where I'm seated are going to assist us as the portfolio committee. So that was my proposal. I don't know, Coach, I wanted to hand over to you so that you can make the summary after the deliberations.
Thank you, co-chair, for that very insightful input. I take nothing away from it. I think we totally agree with you. And what it shows more than anything is this lack of joint planning, joint just collaboration across the board, but also a lack of foresight. Given all of the work that the two departments have done separately, we would really expect that when they come together, they're able to enrich the process by each ensuring that their objectives are met, and the other one bringing the capabilities and the capacities to do so. Co-chair, with your permission and the permission of the meeting, I'm going to ask the Deputy Minister to make her remarks, and then I would plead with the department that you please just reflect on what the members have said today. Maybe we concur with the chairperson of basic education that within the next 3 weeks we need to schedule a meeting where we get a sense that you are truly concerned about how this is going to be rolled up in an effective manner to be able to aid digital learning and teaching in our schools. Deputy Minister Mhauli, may I give over to you to say some remarks as we conclude the meeting? Is the Deputy Minister still with us?
Honorable Chair, I think Deputy Minister has left. She did indicate that she's in 2 meetings, this meeting and the PEC in the Northern Cape. I think she might have left and joined that meeting as well.
Thank you. DG, would you want to have any closing remarks? As indicated, we would request that there's a proper presentation that is delivered in the next meeting. Any reflections you want to share before I hand over to DG Comms? DG Matanzima? DG Mwedi, sorry.
Honorable Chair, we will definitely go back and reflect. We have listened to honorable members, areas that they are dissatisfied with. And I think, as you correctly pointed out, it might be not of any use to even try and clarify some of the things that are not technically clear, like, for instance, numbers that do not add. But I think the best thing is to go back, put our heads together with DCDT, and maybe come back and reflect joint planning and joint implementation. For instance, the issue of the task team is there. I was waiting to hear maybe what are the things that we need to do over and above what we have assigned to the existing task team. But as I've said, we will go back. If honorable members are not happy, as they've indicated, I elect to go back and reflect and then come back at the fullness of time and do things much more better than we have done probably this time around. Thank you very much, honorable chairs and honorable members.
Thank you, DG. DG, if I could just, sorry, I've heard you on the task team. Maybe let me clarify what we are requesting, that when you come back to present, remember there's a number of issues that even the Department of Basic Education is not happy with in the rollout. And a lot of those, I think you alluded to the issues around connectivity and whatnot, and we're saying a lot of that is based on the fact that there seems to be no common approach on what this connectivity success is going to look like. So what is the vision of success? How far are you? Where are the challenges? And then like Chairperson Maimela is saying, how are you going to close the gaps? And then from there, how are you going to track this? So if you could just give some thought to it, and I mean, you do have the basis in terms of your white papers and so forth, and we're asking that let's all come out from a meeting of this nature knowing this is what connectivity looks like in a school. So if it's got access to connectivity, no connection, there's no connectivity there. If it's only the admin block, the learners don't have access, there's no connectivity there. If there's connectivity, it's connected, there's no devices, there's no connectivity there. So those are some of the issues that we are asking you to grapple with, so that when you go from school to school, there's a clear standard of what our vision, and I'm saying our collectively as South Africans, patriotic South Africans, what our schools must look like when it comes to the digital age. Thank you, DG. DG Jordan Gyani.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just to echo the sentiments shared by DG, my colleague, DPE. Chair, it would have been good for us to have been given an opportunity to respond, only to allay some of your anxieties that you do have. Nonetheless, we've taken note of the questions, and we will come back to give you the full strategy, as well as where we're at with the respective role players. Chair, as you know, we got this invite, from my office on Tuesday, because I think today it was supposed to have been the operators who were supposed to appear. And I would still indulge to say that they need to also come in account to the portfolio committee, because a lot of the failures of this is from their part, but perhaps then we can all come in together to be able to account properly. And as I think my colleague said, to also give the assurance that we have a task team, we have a PMO, we have an MOU. We do have the necessary instruments for the implementation, but I think the shortness of the notice, and I'm glad that now you've given us 3 weeks in order for us to be able to put together a crystal clear plan before yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DGs. Much appreciated. And once again, I take nothing away from the point that the DG makes. We did seek to apologize for the short notice, but I hear you, DG, on that. Let me thank my co-chairperson, Honorable Maimela, for this meeting and the collaborative way that we've managed to run it. Also thank all honorable members who participated. Thank the Deputy Minister for her presence, the 2 DGs for leading, as well as the leadership of the entities that were present. We will ask the Secretariat to communicate the new date, which will not be less than 3 weeks, as indicated by Honorable Maimel. Co-chair, I don't know if you have any last parting shots, but that is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to also thank the members of the both portfolio committees, especially the members of Basic Education Portfolio Committee. We also were able to finalize this date just a few days ago, but the response has been very positive, and thank you very much. And let's then adjourn the meeting with that agreement and that summary that will reconvene within 3 weeks, and we then get a possibly a joint presentation from both the departments that gives us a bit of assurance and really allays our anxiety. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.